Hey folks, John with AJ Outdoors, and back on the Grady White. This video is going to be a little different. It's not going to be a video of me actually doing the work. What I want to do is I've done a lot of little things, right, and just haven't added up to a decent video that way. So I'm going to take you around and show you what I've done so far and what we still have to do that I know of. So let's take a peek. Grady White Sailfish 282. So it's a 28-foot boat. Alright, so that was the electronics box. If you remember, there was a Garmin, a black box for the Garmin, and a Ray Marine in there, old as you know what. So all the Ray Marine stuff I've pulled out. The Garmin was still working, it's just old. So I pulled the Garmin, I pulled the black box, it has a Transom transducer with it, I pulled that out, and it had GPS mounted on the hardtop. I pulled that off. Only thing wrong with it is one of the fittings for that GPS cable is cut, so you'd have to get a new cable, but I'm going to go ahead and sell that cheap to somebody who wants something cheap to just get on their boat so they have the capabilities, right? But I didn't want to keep that cheap one on here. I went back and forth between Garmin and Simrad, and I ended up with Simrad. We'll look at that in a minute. Alright, so the overhead boxes, you can see it's a lot cleaner than it was. I still got work to do to clean it. I got to clean up that wiring a little bit. I got to figure out the wiring a little better on the radio, but all that other crap up there is gone. Okay. Here you see the gauges are gone. I pulled them because the LCD, the screens first were horrible. You could hardly see through it, and then the LCD, the data it tells you, you couldn't read it. It was so dim. So I pulled them. I sent them to a company that refurbished them. I've gotten them back already. So now I've ordered a new replacement for this guy, right? And once I get that, I'll reinstall those gauges. Okay. Then over here is a nest, a bundle. So all these yellow wires you see all throughout here, those are all new. I've replaced all those already. What I'm slowly doing is replacing either the whole wires, depending on what it is, or I'm replacing the ends, right? Because I don't like ends like that. That is not a good waterproof end. It's not sealed up good. So I'm replacing those with the ones that you can heat shrink, right? And so that's a process. And I had to order a new mounting plate for that too, just like this. So it'll match this. They'll both be just black, right? Matte black. And then I can start reinstalling all the switches and the breakers. Okay, so that'll be done. But that's what I've been working on the most lately, is getting all those wires replaced that I need to replace, and I still got a lot more to do. That's not near done. Let's take a look at this. This is the live well, or the bait well, right? This is where you keep your bait alive. Okay. Now, in the bottom there was this guy, right? And that's where the hose hooks, and that hose goes out to a through hole so that the overflow goes on. So there's a pipe, right, that's supposed to mount in that overflow. Okay, so it would mount like this, right? And then as the live well got full enough, water comes in back in that area, it would get up to this level and then pour out through, so it would keep it a constant level the whole time. The problem was the previous owner, you can tell by looking at this, you see the pipe joint, blue stuff there, they made this themselves. It didn't fit that one down in there, and that one seemed to get stripped out, and that's why I had to take it out. But I had to cut all these pieces off of it just to get it out. And the problem is, on the bottom side of this, that hole, is the nut that held that all together. Well, it's still there. I guess they sealed it with some kind of sealant to the bottom there. So now I got to figure out how to break that loose. So let's go take a look at what I have to do to get in there. All right, so we're down in the cabin, right? You've all seen this already. Down here is that forward place somebody can sleep there. There's mats for it and everything, but you got to be kind of short. Probably more meant for kids. Audrey thinks she can do it, whatever. And then in here are some access panels to different areas I need to work on. Okay, the macerator pump for the storage for the poop container, right, for the bathroom, doesn't work, so I can't drain overboard, which isn't a big deal. You have to be 3 miles off the coast to even do that. I can still pump it out at a pump station, so that's what we'll do for now. But back in there, you see that light is shining down through that hole. That's where I got to get into to try to cut out all the insulation that's around that nut and then break that nut loose. So it's been a little bit of a challenge. Next thing is leaks. So this window system somewhere leaks. I'm pretty sure it's the window sill itself, but it might be how this is mounted. I might have to pull the whole thing out and look at it. I don't know, but it'll leak water. You see some stains there from water that's leaked whenever it rains. Don't want that. The problem with that is like that window sill, right? This boat is an 03 and they just don't make that window anymore, so they don't make that sill anymore. So I'm gonna have to come up with a creative solution. So any of you out there that have ideas, drop them in the comments below on any of this stuff. I would appreciate it. The next thing, we have a leak that, if you look down in there, you can see where it's kind of rotted stuff over time. It's at this window. I can see stuff like this and this, but I don't know exactly what's leaking at this window, so I got to figure out how to clean that up and seal it up. And then the other leak is at this window. And, well, I don't know if it's a window, but when you look at that, you can say, yeah, that window probably leaks. What I found was, one day after a big rain, there was a puddle there, and it was all wet up in there. So that tells me it might be, if you look out the window right there, you see that mount for the railing, that could be doing it. The hard top mounts could be doing it, or even the rub rail that separates the top and bottom part of the boat could be leaking. So that's another one where I'm just gonna have to investigate. It's gonna be a pain in the butt. All right, let's go. Okay, so now we're looking at the backside of where the gauges were, right? And this boat had Autopilot, Ray Marine Autopilot, that did not work. And when I talked to Ray Marine about it, they're like, yeah, that stuff's old. You're not gonna find parts. You're gonna have to upgrade it. So since I'm going Simrad, I'm not gonna have Autopilot right away. But when I do, it's gonna be Simrad. But this is the hydraulic pump for the Autopilot, and all of them use a pump similar to this. So I'm thinking, hey, don't tear that out, because we might be able to reuse it. But look what I just found yesterday. If you look close, it's wet. All right, it's got a hydraulic leak there. So that's for the whole steering system. So now, that's another add to my to-do, is get those things tightened down so that they're not leaking. So, list is getting longer, ain't it? Okay, the next thing was the refrigerator. It's 12 volt only, so it's not going to run off shore power. It would just run off battery, and it doesn't work, right? And they don't make this exact model anymore. Okay? There is a replacement for it that I can get from the same company, and what I like about it is it can run on 12 volt or it can run off the shore power. So when we're docked up and we're plugged into power, we don't have to use the batteries and we can still have that running. So I like that. But it's like $1,300 for a new refrigerator. Audrey's like, we really don't need a refrigerator right now. And I'm like, I'm good with that. We're not spending that money right now. But what I might do is to check it out. Shay, my buddy, helped me that one day. He pulled the refrigerator out so we could check wiring and all that, make sure it was all good. And it was. He did some diagnostics on it with his multimeter and all that fun stuff. But what I can do is pull it out, and there's a lot of space. If you look up here, it goes under this sink all the way back to the hole back here, down inside of there, right? So I think what I might do is create a cabinet that installs right there where that refrigerator is, so that until we're ready to put a refrigerator in this thing, we'll have that cabinet, and it'll give us a lot of storage room in here. So that'll be nice. So that's okay. To do. Now that's long-term to do. That's not, I got to do that before we take it to the coast and put it in the water. That's not going to happen that way. All right, let's move on. All right, so I told you we were installing the new all-around light. There it is. It's installed, wired, ready to go. The old one was on that, see that piece sticking up from the back of the radar dome? It was on top of that, and a tree branch in the neighborhood took it out. And This one I can fold down, right? There's a turn that knob and it'll fold down for me. So that's what we're going with for that. Now that old GPS sitting there was from the Ray Marine. So we'll be getting rid of that too when I replace the radar. Did finally get a hose and sprayer for the wash down. Now that's a raw water wash down, so I'm not gonna get no water through there until I'm on the water. We got the new VHF radio antenna, right? It's installed, it's wired, and it's attached to the VHF radio. So that's good to go. So I said I went back and forth between Simrad and Garmin. I've always wanted Simrad if I was going to get an offshore boat. So that's what we ended up getting. So this is the Simrad NSX 9-inch, right? So for now, it's going to mount in that compartment right there like the old one was. Then in the future, I want a second 9-inch head unit. And then I'm going to close that in and surface mount them right in there, okay? But that's in the future. For now, this one's going to mount in that space. I already have a 3-in-1 transducer for downside imaging and 2D, all that fun stuff, right? So I got to mount that on the transom. I don't want to drill holes in the transom, so I'm going to use, I've seen a lot of people use these with good results. This bad boy, it actually sticks to the transom, and then you mount your, that looks just like the one I got too, you mount your unit right to it, screws into it, so there's no screws going into the transom of the boat. Okay, so that's another add to the to-do list item. Okay, another add to the to-do list. Back here you see this cutting board, right? This is your workstation for prepping baits and all that. Well, where do you keep the knife? So we got one of these guys that's going to mount probably down here somewhere, where we'll have a knife and pliers available. And the nice thing about this one, I picked this one out, Audrey got it for me, because the knives slide inside it. So you don't have a knife blade right here like a lot of them. So if you ran a hand or foot across there, you could cut yourself. And trust me, I know, because I've done it. So that's another to-do. That's, of course, that's a simple one. All right, if we look back here, probably can't see them because of the tree leaves. Well, you can. The scupper's back here. Right, the scupper is that hole down there where the water goes out when it gets up in here. Okay, well, they're brass original and they have a lip on them that would be right there. This one, the lip is completely gone, so that's a point where moisture can get into my transom, so I'm going to replace that. The replacements I bought are a plastic unit that people said, hey, I got 10 years out of this, so instead of spending the money on the brass ones, I'm going to do the plastic ones. And then if we ever have to do the transom, right, then that's something to be completely redone. So that goes for both of them. That one, the lip is still on it, but I'm just going to pull it. Okay, and you see little things around the edge there where the sealant has started to crack away, right? All that's going to be redone. All right, if you've been watching, I've been doing a lot of work on this trailer. 4 new calipers, 1 new rotor, the others were all turned. Got it all put back together, had to replace one of the brake lines. Now I just need to bleed the system. I just need to go pick up some more brake fluid and bleed the system. And so that's pretty much the trailer's done, except looking at these horrible tires, right? And you can see where this is wearing real funny compared to the rest, and that's on several of the tires. Audrey's like, hey, we just need to get new tires. So I'm gonna get 6 new tires, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. To do. Lighting on the boat's good. I replaced a couple lights and I did a lot of rewiring on the trailer. So lighting on the trailer, I mean, is good. Okay. All right, outside stuff. So some of the more critical stuff. You see this little aluminum piece and see how it's corroded here, corroded all the way through there. Let's go over here between the motors. Corrosion here, here, there. And on the other side, ladder's in the way, but pretty much the same. My issue with that is, that's the transom, right? You don't want water getting in there. So when I had the inspector with me, I pointed that out and I said, I'm really worried about that. Well, he's testing for water. He uses his little hammer and he has this electrical hydro whatever meter that he can just run across there and get readings to get an idea. And he said the transom's pretty good. He said it is sealed underneath that, right? But for whatever reason, instead of just, you know, making it like the rest of the boat, fiberglass in it, right, and then finishing it, right, They didn't. They just put that on there. And they know it's bad in these older boats because everybody's got the same issue pretty much. So they made a replacement for it that is like a vinyl, right? Hard plastic, whatever. The issue with that is that I would have to pull both these motors to get that old one off and a new one on, right? I am not in a situation right now where I can make a hoist to pull them and then make stands for both of them to sit on. So that's going to be a down the road project for somebody that has that capability. I'm going to farm that one out, get somebody that can do it. Meantime, I'm going to get a wire wheel and I'm going to grind down all those corroded areas, and then I'm going to come back with some type of sealant. I haven't decided which one to use yet, to enclose all of that to keep it from doing any worse. And at the same time, that's when I can do these areas, right? You see where that's starting to crack away a little bit up above my finger there, down the side here. So I'm going to redo all that. So that's a big one. That's got to be done before we put her on the water again. Now this is the other big one. You see the trim tabs here. That's that metal plate, right? It has a hydraulic that lowers it and raises it and helps you keep the nose of the boat up or down. You adjust it for comfort ride and all that depending on what kind of weather you're in. You can see rust running down from the screws. So when the inspector came and checked this area, he said there is moisture up over this trim tab. He said, is it a no deal? Well, that's up to me if it's a no deal, but he said it shouldn't be a deal breaker. But what I need to do is pull these screws. Now this was his suggestion. Pull the screws out, re-drill the screw holes larger than they are now, bag it, put plastic over it, and put the shop vac to that, and seal that all together, turn on the shop vac and let it dry out any moisture it can, and then fill those screw holes, right, and re-drill them. Okay, a lot of work. Now I got on the Grady.com forum site, which is a bunch of good people that have a lot of experience, and really the suggestion from them is, hey, pull those screws out and get a Q-tip or something, stick it up in there and see if you have moisture, right? If you don't have moisture, then clean up your hardware or get new hardware, remount it with sealant on all the screws, and you should be good. So that's what we're going to do. Hopefully, fingers crossed, there's no moisture in that area that we have to deal with. But it is what it is. So that and the transom, that thing on top of the transom, were two things that kind of, spooked me as a new boat buyer, buying a used boat. But again, the survey guy was really thorough, and he sounded pretty confident that it's not going to be an issue. So, all right, other than the captain seat and the first mate seat, Audrey seat, the vinyl for all the seating and for down in it all looks good. Clean it up a little bit, put some more protectant on it, but none of it looks that bad, right? This stuff all looks really good. Okay, now our seats, the vinyl for our seats was crappy. There's an armrest, they're pretty crappy and they're hard to find. Can't get these exact seats anymore, or the seat pads for them, because it's an old boat and they stopped making them and they replaced them with something else. But Shay, my buddy that helped me that one day out here on the boat, also has the capability to sew vinyl. So we gave him the seat cushions for both seats. He took them home. He's ordering the vinyl for it. He's going to make us new cushions for both of these seats. So we're going to be good to go on that. So that's, again, something else that's got to be done before we take it down to the coast. We got all of this, a bunch of stuff that's got to be installed in that boat. All right. This is the new drain, right, for that live well, or bait well. Okay, so once I get that, see that nut on the bottom there? That's probably what's up in there stuck right now. Once I get that one off, then I'll come in with this one. And the hose going to the through hole is also rotted. Shay pulled that for me. We'll go back and replace that hose. Also replace the courtesy lights on both sides. There's one over there too. And we got the new LEDs, right, for lighting up the deck area. I just want to say happy birthday and Merry Christmas to myself. Look at this. So the first new electron component is here. That's my Simmerad. All right, folks, one last minute update. That's the drain. That's where it's going to go. I got the old crap out finally. It took a lot of work, including Dremel work, but I got it. I still got to clean it all up and put sealant, so it's not installed yet, but that's what it's going to be. So do me a favor, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You'll get notified anytime I upload a new video, and hit the thumbs up, right? That helps a lot. And then comment down below if I'm screwing something up or you want me to tell you more about something. Comment. I reply to all of them. All right, folks. Peace out.